Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Heroic Efforts. Thank you for joining us once more on what is sure to be our most hellish episode yet, which, considering we've talked about both Ghost Rider films, is quite the accomplishment. Today, we are sitting down for a double feature of Constantine and Spawn. Joining me for this supernatural adventure is Mr. Martin Fisher.
Funny, he's our man. If he can't kill him, no one can. Yay!
I'm here. I've never vibed with the character as much as I do with Clown and fucking Spawn.
And our other good friend that we forced to sit through one of these films, Mr. Nick Talamante.
Talamante. Nick Talamante. Asshole.
This is Constantine. John Constantine. Asshole.
Oh, man. This movie fucking rocked. At least one of them did.
One of them did.
Yeah, one of them did. We'll see if the audience could figure out which one we're talking
Such
about.
a mystery.
I know. Well, before we get into it, we should probably shed some light on the mystery of how the hell did either of these happen?
Yeah.
So we'll get into just a brief little backstory here. The intro, I don't know if you guys caught this on the outline, I put, and you may ask yourself, how did I get here? That's pretty much what I think when I watch the Spawn movie. Who is responsible for this?
I know who's responsible for making me watch this shit. I tell you that.
Yeah, I know. I apologize. I owe you a drink. But, we should start at the very beginning, which was the 90s comics that got us here. In the beginning, way back in the late 1980s, when Tim Burton's Batman was hitting the scene, the British invasion had begun in American comics, which, if anybody's unfamiliar, is basically after the success of comics like Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns, among others. Not that Frank Miller is British, but that's beside the point. DC started importing all of the UK's biggest writers and artists, mainly from 2000 AD, which, if our audience is unfamiliar, they are responsible for Judge Dredd. So that's how we get Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman, Grant Morrison, all of these writers coming in. Basically what it was is they eventually formed Vertigo Comics. Karen Berger, who's an extremely important name in comics history, everyone should talk about her more, brought together this group of artists and created Vertigo Comics, which is sort of a proto-image where these guys were able to do whatever the hell they wanted with basically D or C list characters or characters that hadn't been in publication in decades. And out of that, we got John Constantine Hellblazer, which is one of their biggest sellers. How familiar are you guys with the Hellblazer comics, I should ask?
I believe I have read up to the first 100 issues of the original run of 100 out of 300, and then I've read all the more recent stuff post New 52 and all that, and I've seen all the animated stuff, I've seen all the television show appearances, I've seen, obviously, the movie. Constantine is a character that I really, really like. I have not consumed everything about him, but he's one that, it's always cool seeing him pop up in certain projects and everything, and even though those movies aren't great, I love that he is kind of a cornerstone for a lot of DC's animated stuff, so their animated movies in recent years. So he's a great character, and he's a really cool anti-hero while not feeling cringy.
Yes.
I would say for me, my experience with it is a little bit limited. I haven't read a ton of Constantine. I've only read here and there in the actual comics. A big reason that is actually the movie. I watched this back in the day, and I was like, oh, this is really, really dope. So I checked out a few of his stuff. Nothing too crazy in terms of that I could pull from memory. Just know that he's a cool character, and like Marty said, when he would pop up here and there in DC's animation side, I always really enjoyed it because I was like, all right, cool. This is just a different, more down to earth kind of guy. He's just kind of a almost noir-esque figure, and he's doing all this paranormal shit. So it was a cool contrast. I'm also a particular fan. I always like to shout out the Rafael Grampa. like run of Hellblazer, just with his like unique art style. I always thought it was a great one. So if you haven't checked that out, you should. Believe it's called Hellblazer Christmas. But yeah, it's not too familiar with the character, but what I have seen of him prior to like right after I saw the movie, I thought he was always a great. So I'm glad he's around. I'm glad he's a part of the DC/Vertigo lineup.
And I do appreciate that he is such an important character that he would appear in something like Justice League Action, which was a 26 episode cartoon show meant for 7-year-olds, and they're like, "Here's Constantine."
Well, in all fairness, Martin, that was when DC was definitely trying to neuter the character in the comics and force him to become their doctor.
Yes.
Anybody Hellblazer fan, we don't mention basically the years of like 2013 up until like whenever the hell Black Label came out. Like,
that's pretty rough.
It's like they tried to, as I just said, they tried to make him into Doctor Strange. It's very superhero-y. And that's like the biggest thing that I've always, because I think I'm in the middle between you guys as far as familiarity. Because to me, Constantine, even though he's a super simple concept, is actually a lot harder to nail down than one would think. Mainly because, like you said, Martin, it can get really cringy, that whole anti-hero archetype. It's, if not done right, it can get pretty cringy, and especially if it's neutered, like in the more recent comics. So that's why I'm more familiar with the Vertigo stuff, which again is they let these guys do whatever the hell they wanted.
Yep. Yeah, and I do think it is the case of in the 2010s, they definitely, I see where you're coming from, where they definitely tried to make him basically just DC's Doctor Strange, and it does have that vibe a lot. I mean, like, I like Matt Ryan, I like his interpretation of Constantine, but he is definitely, like, the more family-friendly version of the character, when it's like John Constantine is a character who will just fuck people over because it's more convenient for him. And I know it's hard to make a long-running series out of that, let alone 300-plus issues now, counting all the New 52, Rebirth, all that fun stuff in there, too. It's hard to maintain that for a long period of time. But I feel like the original Vertigo run of what I've read really nailed that kind of characterization. And I think the movie, as we get into it, does a pretty good job balancing that with the more super heroic aspects of the character.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. And before we get into the movie, we should also just talk about how Spawn got here as well.
Oh boy.
Which is Vertigo. Brings adds a little bit more freedom, brings a little bit more adult sensibilities into comics. And in the early 90s, some of the most popular artists in comics were actually working for Marvel. You had Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Eric Larson, Rob Liefeld, so on and so forth. And they weren't treated very well. Everyone knows the story of Image Comics. We'll probably do an episode on the whole thing at some point. But they left Marvel because they were unhappy with the way that creators were treated. They formed Image Comics, which gives complete creative control and all the rights to the creators. Out of that, we got Youngblood, Savage Dragon, Wildcats, Pit, and of course, Todd McFarlane's Spawn, which was an enormous hit.
Yes. Yeah, no, Spawn was gigantic in the 90s. It's kind of wild to think about now, because I think if you think about Spawn in a post-21st century sense, it's like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Honestly, in comparison to how major of a player he was in the 90s, he was a 90s fucking blockbuster kind of character. He was he's a
90s ass character.
He's a 90s ass character. So he fit that period so well, and he was such a comic book icon, and he pretty much was the one that kept Image going for a good while. And I'll give Todd McFarlane a lot of credit on it. Like, I don't love Spawn comics. I don't love a lot of things with Spawn, but I will say, like, I admire the ambition that went behind it, and I do think that it's at least created a lot of cool opportunities for other comic book creators. And obviously, like I said, it kept Image going for a while, and now they're way bigger than they've ever been before. So, good for you, Toddy.
Well, we'll get into Todd McFarlane's legacy and his handling of the Spawn character once we get into the sort of aftermath of this. But yes, Spawn is probably the most 90s character ever created, and I'll just say, when I was a kid, I first saw I had like a comic book price guide, like an Overstreet, and I would flip through and just look at all the covers. and they had a Spawn cover in there, and the look is so cool. The look is absolutely incredible, and obviously the aesthetics are the foundation that this entire character is built upon, which is a big problem when you're trying to make a story that people care about. But we'll get into that. We'll get into that with the film. Just a little bit of a final run up to the two films is we should talk about where comic book movies were in the 90s and the early 2000s. I have here in the outline, we could go through the whole history and everything, but I can basically boil it down to everything was either trying to be Batman or The Crow.
Yes.
Pre X-Men coming out. Pre X-Men. I would even include Blade in that category, even though it's excellent. It is very much like it's very much like The Crow was super popular. Yeah. Let's do another really sort of gothic, gritty kind of horror-related superhero.
Oh yeah, no, Batman, Crow, and Blade, I think, are great examples of where the tone was for comic book characters at the time in film. Everything was trying to be like that and copy that style. That's why we had that big boom of pulp heroes coming back and failing horrifically at the box office as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is definitely, Spawn is definitely a continuation of that. And I mean, when it comes to Constantine, of course, when that came out, it's a totally different ballgame, but we'll get to that when we actually start to cover the movie, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's the world that we're living in, where basically Spawn gets greenlit because the comics are incredibly popular, and Batman 89 basically blew the doors off of blockbuster filmmaking and totally revolutionized it. And Batman Forever also basically revolutionized how superheroes are marketed to children as far as how these films are marketed with their toys and everything. So that just creates the perfect environment for the absolute media shitstorm that is Spawn in 1997. but I specifically put that one at the end of this episode because I knew we would have a lot to talk about with Spawn. But we should definitely we should start off on a good note. And we'll start talking about Keanu Reeves' Constantine.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
Want to take it away, Nick? You've got the summary.
Man, let's talk about this. I'm so glad we're starting off with this one because it's an absolute banger. This film is just in the same vein as I would say either Ghost Rider or Blade, just that late 90s, early 2000s, just absolute fucking kino, ladies and gentlemen. But before I start glazing up this film, let's just give a brief summary of what's going on. So this is Constantine. So the film opens up with a quote about how he who controls the spear of destiny, that's the spear that killed Christ, controls the fate of the world. And the spear hasn't been seen since World War II. So then we cut to Mexico, where a couple of homeless guys are rummaging around in a bombed out church, and one of them stumbles upon something buried. Turns out it's the spear of destiny wrapped up in a Nazi flag. And I really love this one because it's just for all the history buffs out there, with the Nazis heading out to South America near the end of the war. I thought that was just a nice little touch. So the homeless man becomes possessed, and after getting hit by a fucking car, just makes his way downtown, walking fast. He's homebound. So then we cut to the City of Angels in an apartment complex in K-Town where a young girl is being possessed by a demon. The best exorcist in LA is needed, and it's none other than John Constantine. And that's Constantine. John Constantine. Asshole. Yeah. And he's played by the incredible Keanu Reeves, along with his taxi driver / assistant / little minion, Chaz Kramer, who's played by a young Shia LaBeouf. So we get this incredible exorcism scene. It's just an absolute banger, just a kick-ass way to start off the movie. But despite saving the day, something's not right. The demon that's trying to the demon that is possessing the little girl is trying to cross over. And that's something that's apparently forbidden from both angels and demons while they're on Earth, as per the rules of the great game between heaven and hell. At the same time, a woman in a psych ward throws herself off the top of a hospital. This woman happens to be the twin sister of Detective Angela Dotson, played by Rachel Weisz. She's a devout Catholic, so Detective Dawson seeks counsel and answers for her sister's death, unable to accept that her sister willingly took her own life and condemned herself to hell. While seeking counsel at the same time, Constantine went and talk to the half-breed angel Gabriel, who's played by Tilda Swinton, and requests an extension on his life for his services deporting demons back to hell. John's doing this because he's been diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. Smoking 30 packs a day since he was 15 kind of does that to you. And as we learn, he took his own life, and when he was younger, so his soul is bound for hell. So he's looking for a way out. He's like, give me something. Give me some kind of extension on here. Come on. I've been doing your part. Come on. So Gabriel tells John that deporting demons for a selfish reason isn't how he gets into heaven, and also delivers the incredible line that he's fucked. So, still hunting for answers and hearing her sister mention his name in the security tapes of her death, Detective Dawson seeks out Constantine because of his occult expertise, and eventually he agrees to show her the world of the supernatural. Constantine reveals to her that he committed suicide as a teen because he was traumatized seeing all this supernatural shit around him. He then proves that her sister is in hell by going there in a quick trip. At the same time, Constantine's ally, Father Hennessy, and Beeman start piecing together the mystery of what's going on, but they're both killed mysteriously. And it turns out that what they uncovered was that Mammon, the Antichrist / son of Lucifer, has been conducting a plan to unleash hell on earth by possessing a powerful mystic, Angela's sister, and alongside the help of some unknown divine assistants. So after building a sick-ass holy shotgun, they set out to find Balthazar, the half-demon that killed John's friends. Angela reveals to him that not only did her sister have the same gift as John, but that she herself, being her twin, also has that gift. But she always repressed it when they were younger out of fear of being deemed insane like her sister. So then, like I said, John builds his sick-ass shotgun, and he reawakens Angela's powers, and they use those powers to go find Balthazar. John interrogates him, learns about Mammon's plans to use the blood of Christ that's on the Spear of Destiny to be resurrected here on Earth. An unknown force then snatches Angela away, and John seeks the help of the witch doctor, Papa Midnight, played by Jamun Ansoon. I can never pronounce his name correctly, but he's fantastic. So after entering this club, Papa Midnight straps John to a holy electric chair, and John gets visions on where to locate Angela, who turns out has been brought to the same psych ward where her sister died. After arming up, Constantine and Kramer set out to rescue Angela. After a sick-ass action sequence with the holy shotgun blowing demons away, Constantine and Kramer confront the now-possessed Angela and nearly expel Mammon from her. But then Kramer is killed by the half-angel Gabriel, who reveals to John that she's actually resentful of God's favoritism towards mankind, and that by teaming up with Mammon and unleashing hell on earth, the survivors would prove themselves truly worthy of God's love. Desperate, Constantine commits suicide, and Lucifer himself, played by Peter Stormare, excellently, I might add, personally comes up to collect John's soul. John informs him what's going on. Lucifer's like, what the fuck? Pulls up on his son and, stops his plan to usurp him, burns off Gabriel's wings, and now he comes back to collect, John's soul. And he's like, hey, look, just because, you stopped my kid, what do you want? And he's thinking that John wants an extension on his life in some kind of, Faustian deal. John says instead, nope, he just wants to bring back Angela's sister from hell, put her back in heaven where she belongs. And because he does this selfless act, John is actually, enters heaven. He's granted access to heaven. So as he's being ascended up to the pearly gates in this incredible scene where he gives Lucifer the fucking bird on his way up, old Lucy is just like, what the fuck? Hell no, you're mine. So then he literally rips the cancer out of John's lungs and resurrects him and says, you're going to live because I want you to have another chance to condemn yourself and fuck up again. So, with the plans foiled, the now mortal Gabriel begs John to kill them, but John says nah, clocks him in the face, and then walks off Angela. He entrusts her to hide the Spear of Destiny somewhere where not even he can find them, and they part ways. And then we get a nice post-credit sequence where John visits Kramer's grave, and it's revealed that he became an angel, and he flies up to heaven. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was 2005's masterpiece, John Constantine.
I love movies, man. I want to say three little quick side notes. Number one, I love that his little shotgun cross thing is very reminiscent of Van Helsing's weird bone thingy. I love that. Number two, you cannot tell me that Shia LaBeouf's character in this and iRobot are not the same person. They act exactly the same. And
around the same time too.
The same time too. And number three, Tilda Swinton is Gabriel. Oh Lord, I was feeling the vapors a little bit.
Oh yeah. This movie fucking slaps. Can now that we got the plot summary out the way, god damn it, this movie is fucking amazing. I'd seen it back in the day. Always had positive thoughts from it. It's kind of a contrast to most of the films we talk about on the show where I'd seen it in the past. I'm just kind of like, kind of warm on it or didn't really care for it. This is a movie I always knew was Kino from the fucking jump. And just rewatching it now for this episode, I'm like, God damn it, it's so good. Everything that I love in these kind of films, like the perfect early 2000s aesthetic, like they just got that shit nailed down, packed. The costume design, honestly, is surprisingly like really good. Like honestly, everybody's like dripped the fuck out. Like even like John's like kind of basic look. It's he nails it. He nails that kind of neo noir thing they're going for his character. Like you mentioned, Tilda Swinton's Gabriel. Good God Almighty. Whether she's like suited and booted when you first meet her, or like her sick ass like white psych ward outfit that has like those like patient wristbands all over her, but each one of them has like one of the 7 deadly sins on it. Oh, it's so fucking good. Or oh my god, my man Papa Midnight with his drippy ass pimp outfit, the suede he got on. Oh my god, he just stepping out. Everybody in this film is stepping the fuck out.
Even the character design on like Peter Stormare is like he's wearing like a dirty kind of white suit, and he's got like no shoes on. He's got oil all over his fucking feet or whatever. It's fucking lovely.
That was his idea. What? That was actually his idea. I think there was supposed to be like a more devilish, like a more traditionally devilish costume, and he was like, "Oh, what if I just took my shoes off and had tar on my feet?"
Hell yeah!
Like, and it's like
so good. It's so we can go through like the cast because I think everyone gives an incredible performance here. But yeah, I just had to like come out the gate, just let everybody know where my cards lay on this film. This film is fucking incredible.
We should also just talk about the first thing everyone thinks about when they think about this movie, which is Keanu Reeves as Constantine, who I think is excellent. Now, I'm just going to preface this a little bit. Certain characters have fan bases that get really weird about them. Spider-Man. Constantine is one of those characters where it seems, at least from like a certain portion of the fan base, there is a very rigid idea of what this character is and who he is and why he's this way, and I'm pretty certain that some of it is just fetishistic. But people get really weird about Constantine.
Let's
for
just
some
say
reason.
in like the early 2020s when they were talking about, you know, the new Constantine show that never happened and that is very likely going to be a black actor, boy, do things get weird on the internet.
Ooh. What you said? Comic book fucking nerds being weird about race? Color me shocked.
Yeah, it's Constantine is one of those characters for sure. I think it's unfounded, but hey.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's a Spider-Man thing where it's just there's a certain aspect of the fandom that just will not accept any sort of deviation, and anything that's not the thing that they loved when they were younger is just illegitimate. Yeah. And that's really unfortunate because Keanu Reeves is perfect as John Constantine. I don't care if he's not British. I don't care if he doesn't have blonde hair. It doesn't matter. He's fucking awesome.
Yes. No, he is absolutely fantastic in this movie. I honestly think from like the late 90s, early 2000s, or 90s to 2000s era, Keanu Reeves, this is like his best performance in my opinion. I think he knocks it out of the fucking park. I love his performance. I love his take on Constantine. Yeah, he's not British. Who gives a fuck? He's not blonde. I don't really care.
Who gives a fuck?
Who gives a fuck? You know, it's like, I get Constantine was like kind of like made with like the punk inspiration of British youth at the time. That doesn't apply here. That wouldn't fit with the story they're going with the tone they're going for, I think, as much. He's not a wisecracking. And also, here's the thing, too. It's Keanu Reeves' Constantine is not a wisecracking, slightly younger Constantine. This is one who is already, like, fucking 15, 20, 25 years into doing this shit as a job. And he's just like, I'm dead. I'm dying. I don't want to do this shit anymore. Please kill me now.
Yes. I think that... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, he's fucking fantastic. Everything, I love his performance in this movie. I cannot praise him enough. He is a fantastic John Constantine, and especially under the veneer of doing a Constantine film as a noir piece, he fucking excels at that shit.
Yes, that's a great point, that this is above and beyond everything else, a noir movie with supernatural elements, which is really cool to watch because this is one of those few early comic book movies that actually commits to the non-superhero genre that it's claiming to be a part of. Yeah. You know, nowadays, again, we brought this up before, but it's like Ant-Man and the Wasp is a heist film. It's like, not really. Not really. Like, The Winter Soldier is not a political thriller. But at its core, Constantine is a noir film. Is a horror noir. There's little to no superhero stuff in this at all.
Yeah, I absolutely couldn't agree with you more. That's one of the reasons why I love this film as much as I do, is because it commits to itself first and foremost to be a neo noir, and I think Keanu Reeves absolutely fucking nails it. I wasn't aware of this whole kind of controversy within like the John Constantine fandom. To the extent that it exists, that they weren't.
The fact that you even say that is hilarious. The fact that you even say that. John Constantine fandom is divided.
Exactly. So I'm just like, I really don't give a fuck with like some niche nerd group, within a niche nerd group, what they think about it. And if they want to be like fucking weirdo Aryans about it, I mean, like there's a Nazi flag in the film, you know what I mean? So like, there you go. There's your representation. Be happy about it. I don't give a fuck if he's not a blonde, blue-eyed motherfucker, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, in all seriousness.
When you edit the reel of this and we're talking about the John Constantine fandom, you just need to edit in the picture of the soup from SpongeBob that says "Get a job." like that sums this up entirely. If you have enough time to get angry that John Constantine isn't blonde, I would suggest hitting the sidewalk and going and looking for employment, because you have to be unemployed to have that much time on your hands.
It's that meme of the guy with the job application over his face going, "Boo, I scared you."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No, for real. Like, so, brother, if your Hitler particles are going so crazy that you're like tripping on John Constantine, who's still being played by a white man, then like, I don't know, seek help, seek God. You know what I mean?
Arguably the whitest man.
Certainly one of them. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, I think Keanu Reeves' performance here is fan-fucking-tastic. I love, and Andy alluded to this, I love that he's not some like young, peppy, wisecracking like young exorcist. Like he's like a cynical, burnt out dude who knows he's like at the end of his rope in perfect Kino noir fashion. Like he is an old PI, at the end of his days. You know what I mean? He knows that the jig is almost up, kid. You know what I mean? And I love that he does make jokes. They still retain that aspect of the character of him like being a quote unquote jokester, but he's doing it with like this super cynical bite. You know what I mean? Like these are the jokes of like a dead and dying man. You know what I mean? Like he's an asshole. Like it's not just it's kind of funny in the beginning of the film. And he's like, that whole John Constantine asshole. Like that's not just a great line, but it's also just kind of funny because it's like, yeah, that might as well be like his occupation, because like he's a dickhead throughout most of this. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's just a bitter old man, kind of, and I really love that. So he absolutely nails performance in the film for what they were going for. And I think doing this character justice to the extent that like the vibe, I at least speak to like the vibe of Constantine, not being super familiar with like the deep lore of the character or whatever, just what I understand him to be, which is like a detective slash exorcist, and he is dealing with all the supernatural bullshit that like he doesn't want to, and I think in that regard, absolutely fucking nails it.
And I do want to highlight real quick before we go on to other actors in the film, because I mean we're going to mention everybody because they're all fantastic in this. One thing I absolutely love about this movie is I think this is the most accurate to how Los Angeles should look in a movie like this. It is fucking disgusting. It
grimy, baby.
Yes.
Grimy. Yes. It has that perfect set design going on.
And you're talking about it before it goes to hell. Oh, it's still shitty. No, yeah. Like it has that Sicario filter over it.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, you're like, this looks like a terrible place to be. I don't want to hang out here. Like
all three of us being boys that once at least lived near LA. It's true.
No, look,
no, it's
dude,
pretty yeah.
It fucking nails the vibe of it. When they were like, down on Figueroa, I was just like, oh yeah, real LA shit. But I knew this movie was cooking though, for many reasons. But I really knew it was nailing the LA vibe when like we opened the film and it's set in motherfucking K-Town, baby.
Yeah,
like the exorcism is it's not just happening in some hoity-toity ass like Beverly Hills like mansion. Like no, we're deep in K-Town, baby. Probably like a block away from Skid Row. This tiny little apartment complex that I've been in and I know people in, and I loved it. That's how I knew it was like real LA culture. I'm like, they're especially like the liquor store they have that's still in K-Town. I'm like, hell yeah, I love it.
That apartment scene first, like we've kind of moved away from like describing a plot like scene by scene on this show, but we really should talk about the opening exorcism scene, because it's like,
please, let's highlight it.
The personification of John Constantine. And again, much like the Blade blood rave at the beginning of the first Blade, if you just released that as a short film, it would be incredible. You could absolutely release just that scene, and it would be an 11 out of 10 adaptation of the character.
Perfectly encapsulates it.
That apartment is possibly the sweatiest apartment I've ever seen in a film. Like it looks like my balls are stuck to my thigh just watching that movie. Like it's so uncomfortable and sweaty, and you're just and you almost want to yell at somebody, being like, "Can we please turn on the air conditioning?" Before you realize that you're just watching a movie.
That's how you know it's good, man, because you're in an immigrant community house, and the fan is all we got, and that fan's just circulating hot ass air. There ain't no motherfucking AC, and if there is, well, shit, we're not raising the bill, so you better get used to it.
I think when I first saw this movie, oh my god, I must have been 9 or 10 years old. I missed it in theaters. A friend of my dad's got it on DVD, so we went over to his place and we're watching it. And it's it's an okay, decent place in LA, but there's no fucking air conditioning. It's the middle of summer, so you better believe that first fucking scene. I'm like, I'm living this right now.
And then John Constantine shows up in a black suit and just has to exorcise this demon out of here. And it's great because we'll just give a quick summary of it. Basically, the way he decides that he's going to exorcise this demon is to have a mirror above the tied up possessed girl. And I guess whatever BS supernatural logic that Constantine writers always fall back on, which is a big problem I have with the character, but not with this, but in other Constantine stories, whatever crap they come up with for him to be able to do it, he pulls the demon out into the mirror, and there's just a great little moment where he's like, "Don't look at it," and then one guy peeks, and he just gets so scared his hair turns white. He's slapping his face. It's and then the mirror drops, and John Constantine has to hold it up. He's like, "No!" And it starts punching the mirror.
And they're trying to force it out of the fucking window, but the mirror's just a hair too big, and you hear the wood pressing. It's so great. Such great sound design in this movie.
He pulls the line, and there's that wide shot where he's leaning back with all of his weight on the line, trying to get that mirror out the window. It's so good. And the setup to it is great, where he looks down at Shia LaBeouf, he's like, "Move the car," and he's like, "Why?" He's like, "Just move the damn car."
Oh man, I love it. Like the scene, like you said, it perfectly encapsulates his character and the movie. I would say as a whole, it just sets the fucking tone. Much like the Blade blood rave sequence, it just sets the fucking tone. Because John Constantine comes up, he's greeted by Father Hennessy, who's just kind of a babbling mess, and he's just like, I found one for you, John. And we just got to get a good sense of that character, and then John's just this cold and cool, calm, collected, like any good fucking noir protagonist. He is just just barely even speaks. He pulls out a pack of smokes. He starts lighting one up, and he walks into the room in the house or the apartment where the little girl's being possessed. And then he puts his lit cigarette onto a dresser or the counter, just to give himself a timer of how long to finish this. Starts the whole process. What I really love in that scene in particular is when he has all those, I'm guessing they're holy keys, just to as some kind of symbol to exorcise the demon. So he holds it in the light in this really awesome shot. And then we see kind of from a down angle of the demon's perspective, and he's cycling through these different little keys or symbols to see which sign is going to repel the demon. And then he lands on one, and the demon starts reacting and starts screeching and whatnot. And he's just he found the right one. Comes over, just steps on the way he steps on the bed too. I don't know, something about that. He's just big dicking this fucking demon so hard. I love it.
He drops his full weight onto this possessed girl and stuff.
And then he just presses that fucking key on the possessed girl's forehead. The shit starts steaming up and burning the demon out of her. I love the design, the demon literally fighting its way out of her. You see its face pressing underneath her skin of her neck and whatnot. And he's just giving these incantations before he delivers that line I've said a few times on, where he's just Constantine, John Constantine, asshole.
This is Constantine. John Constantine. Asshole.
Like the way he just delivers it, like there's so much bite in it, and it's like truly a testament to Keanu Reeves' performance, where there's so much like confidence and swagger in it, but he's also like so clearly done with this bullshit that after he does this whole elaborate sequence where he like puts the demon into the mirror and then chucks that bitch out the window for it to fucking shatter on Shia LaBeouf's little taxi car, then we see him just kind of get up and he picks up his cigarette. It's almost out, and you realize like he did all this shit in like 2 minutes, and then he just walks off like it's another fucking Tuesday. Love it.
Yeah, that's great. I absolutely adore it. The Blade comparisons with this film are very astute because, well, you have an amazing, fantastic opening that sets the character up right away. I also love that he is, as we said before, he's a Constantine that has already been going around for 2 decades at least.
Yep.
And just
no
like,
origin.
There's no origin, and just
not
like
an origin. It's great.
And just like with Blade, it's like you are thrown into this world, and it already feels alive. It already feels like there's so much history to this world that we're being introduced to, and like through Karen in Blade, we have Rachel Weisz's character who we follow as like the surrogate, like, you know, audience surrogate. So you have, you know, the person that John's going to tell all this shit to, basically, while also being introduced like, oh, that shit just exists. Okay, cool. There's just like, you know, angels like living on the earth. Okay, cool. Or
and we
Papa Midnight's house of fucking, you know, every demon you can imagine just hanging out and chilling in the middle of LA.
Well, we should mention that this film is directed by Francis Lawrence, who has all of the sauce. Yes. And if our audience is unfamiliar with him, he also directed probably the most comparable thing he's directed is the I Am Legend film with Will Smith, which I initially loved as a kid, then was pretty lukewarm on like later in life, and have now come back around to, despite its flaws, being like, this is pretty fucking awesome. Which is exactly the same as Constantine, where I think, and I put even in the outline, this movie is very comparable in terms of response to Daredevil 2003. Because both of these movies are pretty much the best effort you could possibly make to adapt these characters at the time you were making this. They were making a Daredevil fucking movie. They were not making a Daredevil trilogy setup in the same way that Constantine, they're like, okay, it's a noir guy, he talks to demons, and it's, you know, they go through the whole character. We're gonna adapt this into a movie. This ain't some fucking like first 6 issues we're gonna throw in every beat just to get everybody that's a fan of this to freak out. No, we're gonna adapt the best parts of this character into a film. I sound like fucking Harry Styles. It's like it's like a movie. It's like a real movie. I mean, but it applies to this. Francis Lawrence took Constantine and made him cinematic.
Yes.
Which is impressive, incredibly impressive.
And on that note of, I'm so glad you brought that up, Andy, because this is a certified real ass movie, ladies and gentlemen. And one of the things I really loved about this was specifically the cinematography. Now, I believe it was Felipe Roselette. Or Rosette, I can never really pronounce his name, but he's the cinematographer on this, I believe. And this film is shot beautifully. All right, he just absolutely cooks with it. This film is dripping and oozing in sauce. It has that perfect early 2000s energy, like when it's really hitting. This film produces that, but the cinematography in this is one of the things that really stood out to me, especially on the second rewatch, just because there's so many incredible shots in this. I love creative angles they take with it. I love, in particular, there's one shot that stood out. I believe it's later on in the film when Angela and John are talking, and I think one of them is like kind of cut off by John's like grimy ass apartment. He has like these like almost beer bottle like green glass like mirrors or like kind of like window sills it located in the apartment, and he's just like he's like framed in there while they're talking, and something about that is just so good. Or the fact that when we see the psych ward and at the very end, there's a shot in particular where Jan gets flung the fuck out of there, and we just see Tilda Swinton closing the doors with like her magic powers or whatever, and the doors are sliding in this perfect like wide shot, sliding and close it, but then the way the pool is angled in the back, it looks like a big ass cross, you know, to denote like the resurrection scene that's about to take place. I don't know. There's so much shit in this like movie where it's just like there's so many just cool ass shots. I love it.
Well, also on that note too as well, the scare moments in this film are also very well shot because there are like the loud like noises that come at you and everything. But I appreciate that in a lot of these sequences, if there's a scary moment, it's something where they do the cat people thing where it's like you're focused on a character and then something comes from off frame and then meets them. So whether it's the first fucking thing with the car slamming into the guy at the start of the movie, or young John Constantine like being like attacked by the first like demon that he sees, and it's just like some old fucking decrepit old man just going, you know, it's the horror elements are also really well shot. Just a fantastic job all around on this movie.
I mean, that sequence of the guy in the liquor store trying to drink and just he cannot. And it's a bit difficult to describe, but this is actually from a Constantine comic.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Where basically the guy is cursed to not be able to consume anything. So if he takes like a bite of a granola bar, it's like ash in his mouth or something like that. If he tries to drink from like a beer bottle, it just dissipates before he can drink it. And that is like torturous. There are certain things in comics, like I'll just compare this to like in Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, right? There's that part where he goes down into hell and he sees Anton Arcane, and Arcane's like, how many decades have I been here? And Swamp Thing is like, you've been here 3 days. And he just has this look of like, no, like he can't believe that this
Louis
torture
Jordan, you're gonna stay down here.
Yeah, you can't believe that this torture has been happening for only 3 days. That's how intense it is. Same with this. We're looking at this. I'm like, this is like as close to a living hell as like I think I could imagine.
Yeah, and that's that priest is also a great little bit role by what is his name? I think it's Pruitt Taylor Vince, who is Pa Kent in the next Superman movie. So just so you know, there's a little DC royalty.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the guy.
Oh, man. I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah. So hey, DC's back, man. Bring the old school back. But yeah, he does a really great job with just like a bit role, and I love that Constantine has these like side characters that he interacts with. Whether it's
he's got
guys, you know, whether it's the priest or the Bugman, or you got fucking
Demon
Papa Midnight over there, or Gabriel, who he clearly has some kind of like interaction with before. There is they know each other. So I love that he has this whole little world around him and all these characters that he already knows that you're getting introduced to. And even in their first interaction, you're like, oh, these guys already know each other. And they've known each other for a while, basically. They've been at this shit for a while, and they're all fucking tired, basically. Everyone is fucking tired in this movie. Yep.
I want to briefly touch on like the supporting cast in a second, but just to kind of wrap up this point, one, I'd love that scene with Father Hennessy's death with the curse where he can't consume anything, because it's shot really, really well, where you're like just as disoriented as he is when he's like cracking open bottles of like wine and like chugging it, but nothing's coming out. And then as soon as he places the bottle down, you see all the liquid fall out of it. It's a really, really sick ass scene. I love it. On the note of the horror elements, because it's something I really want to touch on, I really, really liked how they not only handled horror in general with this, but specifically like the hell part of it. They make that shit look bleak. I want to say
are on fire.
Yeah, like so basically every time the audience like we see them.
That's just 2024 California.
Yeah, that's just the weather now. That's just LA like in real time right now. But what I really love about the depiction of hell is like, you know, it's this kind of traditional kind of like hellscape where it's just like everything is just rusted and decayed. It looks like our world except just completely like fucked. But it looks like, at least to me, that they took a lot of inspiration from the works of I can never pronounce his Polish name. It's Baczynski, I think. He's, if you look up his name, he's a famous artist, a Polish artist that does these just absolutely incredible and just terrifying, in a very surreal and specific way, terrifying paintings, and that depict like these like hellish, otherworldly landscapes. I think,
is it the one where it's like you see, have like a lot of like you have so many things going on there? Oh, yep, that guy, yep.
Yeah, everyone's seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, so again, it's hard to describe over audio, but like if you look it up, then you'll know like exactly what I'm talking about. But I love, and I'm pretty sure the filmmakers took that vibe or that inspiration for their depiction of hell, I really, really appreciate it because it's terrifying. It's terrifying in a way that's like, one, Spawn is not for a variety of reasons, but also in most media depictions, it's not like I wouldn't say it's a traditional depiction, even though it's a very classical depiction, if that makes sense. Just the brief moments we see of it, like when they get that amazing shot when the camera pans down and underneath where John's walking on like an overpass in hell, he sees just like a sea of people being fucking eviscerated by demons, just like all these people cowering. It almost looks like a Hieronymus Bosch painting. Like it's just this horrific scene, and it's a glimpse. It's just a quick glimpse, and we just see these demons feasting on people. So I just think the horror elements of this film work really, really well, and I really appreciate the again, not necessarily generic, but still classical depiction of hell in this, because it really sells like the terror that both John and even to an extent Angela think about her sister, like what what's facing them at the end of the barrel. You know what I mean? But yeah, the supporting cast in this, though, is fantastic. I think they deserve just a brief, just kind of mention, because they're so fucking good.
Yeah. I mean, do we want to go down the list? I mean, Rachel Weisz, I think, is really good. You know, she's a great character surrogate for everybody. She kills that fucking role. I love her little arc that she's got going. I love that the character has that contrasting thing of, like, you know, she is a very hardcore Catholic, but also her sister's committed suicide, apparently, according to her. And so she's, you know, she's almost trying to make a deal, like, well, does she have to go to hell, basically, for this? It's great. It's a crisis of faith character, and I love that kind of shit to see. She's great. Fucking Tilda Swinton as Gabriel is fantastic.
Oh, good.
Yes.
So good.
It has so many great lines, and I love the part near the end where she's like to John, like, "Are you gonna kill me? Come on, to do it. Take your revenge. Do it, please." Because you know, I love that kind of shit. You know, and the way she cowers in front of the devil and everything. It's just fantastic performance. I mean, Tilda Swinton's an amazing actor, of course, but that is like the performance that'll always stick with me in their career.
I love her so much. She's absolutely fantastic in this. She's one of my favorite character actors. Like when they let Tilda Swinton like really cook and just be a weird person, especially like a weird androgynous angel, like they work so well in this. I love the kind of dismissive and like looking down on humanity kind of aspect that they went with for this character, for this angel. I always appreciate that kind of trope for like angel characters, because they're just like that resentment. Like she really sells that resentment that she has towards John, even though that they're quote unquote like allies, or at least they have some kind of working relationship. I will never forget that fucking line. I think she delivers it perfectly when she's like, "John, you're gonna die young and you're gonna go to hell. You're fucked." Like that, like the way she delivers that is so fucking good. And I gotta give, even though he's in this movie very briefly, I really gotta give a shout out to my man Jamun Hasu, because him as Papa Midnight, I also really appreciate him as like a character actor. He's not in much as a leading role, but I always appreciate him when I do see him. He's almost got that Donald Sutherland look, you know, R.I.P. But he almost has that kind of effect where like when you do see him pop up in a film, you're like, oh, it's him, he's the guy, you know. So I appreciate him as Papa Midnight in this. He really sells in his brief moments the kind of just like power, like he's this neutral figure, like he doesn't get involved in the quote unquote the great balance. But I love that he is just like so commanding in his presence, like you got to pay respect to him. And then also, you know, just drip the fuck out, you know. I mean, my man's out here just stunned. He got the alligators on, like he is just stepping out in this. So he's fantastic.
And I will say, as an adaptation of Papa Midnight, pretty freaking perfect, because he is Papa Midnight as a character is always someone who like clearly does not like John Constantine at all, but has to tolerate him. And I think Jean Hansu's performance absolutely captures that 100%.
Yeah. And also, in particular, real quick, just to wrap up the cast, at least my feelings on it. I love Papa Hennessy, Father Hennessy, the big man. Like he's great. Like as a supporting character, I love. He's just a weird little freak. Like John has guys. You know what I mean? The hallmark of a great film is to have weird guys. You know, and I love that he's like this schizophrenic like priest, and he like is also like a medium, like at that scene when he's like rubbing his hands and his eyes roll back in his head and he's like searching for cases for John. That's fantastic. I love Beeman, the bug man. Like he's just a weird little dude that collects you know, relics for John to use against demons, but also like lives in the back of a bowling alley in Koreatown. You know what I mean? Like this, you gotta have weird ass characters like that. That is always a hallmark of a fantastic film, and I just love that we have these supporting guys. All right, sorry, bad man. I just had to throw that out there.
I do think it's important that if we're going to stop talking about supporting characters, that we have to mention Mr. Peter Stormare here.
It's one of the best devils in film. He's up there, and this is something that fans of the show will know means a lot when we say it. He's up there with Peter Fonda's devil in Ghost Rider. And I think he's better because he's scarier. He's fucking great. He is he's a treasure in this movie. And again, when he comes down with like the tar dripping off of his feet and everything.
When he's like levitating down.
he looks like the devil.
Yes,
like in like in real life. Like I'm sure he's a nice man, but he looks like the devil. So like that's who you would get. He's perfect.
He is having his Hannibal Lecter moment in this movie 100%.
Yes.
He's given the scenery and he's chewing every single bit of it that he has got, down to the point where I'm positive in the script it didn't say the devil almost licks John Constantine's face. I'm pretty sure that was just Peter.
Yes.
Like, that's fucking great. That's fucking acting right there, man.
Peter Stormare just absolutely kills it in this role. His Lucifer is like one of the best depictions I've seen like in a movie. I think period. Like he's so intimidating. Like he just has this like biting edge. It's similar to Hannibal Lecter, but whereas Hannibal Lecter was like a more like subdued psychoticness, Peter Stormare is like a fucking wolf in like a cage, and that cage is being like wheeled towards you like ever closer and closer. Like he is just so like biting at the bits, almost literally, like Marty said, almost licking John's face because he just cannot wait. And he tells him, he's like, "Oh, I have a whole carnival of red delights for you, John." You know, he is just itching to fucking get John Constantine. And I love the contrast. Like again, A1 costume design, whoever is in charge of that, absolutely killed in this film. But his depiction, where it's this crisp, super clean white suit with not a fucking stain on it, but then his hands are just oozing with grimy black like oil. Like it's such a fantastic. And he has his bare feet out too, just again covered in oil, walking on all this glass and shit. Like he is so fucking terrifying.
I know he looks like Marv from Home Alone after he walks up the stairs. but like I mean that as a compliment,
right?
Like
I'm just thinking of like Home Alone with Keanu Reeves as Macaulay Culkin's character, and like he's Peter Stormare coming after him. He just throws a paint can at his head. Oh, good God. Yeah.
No.
Oh, my God. Like, Peter Stormare, I love the guy. I love seeing him pop up in anything. He is always giving 100% of who he is in every movie and every performance he does. And his performance as the devil is my personal favorite interpretation of the devil in any film. I adore this version. You know, it's 6 minutes maybe in the movie, and he fucking owns it. It's like, if you
Steals the show.
If for whatever reason you don't vibe with this movie, I'm sorry for you, but even if you don't vibe with the rest of the movie, those 6 minutes alone would make watching this movie worth it, because it is such a fantastically done sequence. You have the whole John basically tricking the devil into getting into heaven, and the devil just like, "No, you're mine. Come back. I'm taking the cancer out of you."
Man.
That's great. That's such good shit, man.
When you talk about stuff like that, it reminds me of like there's that one Constantine comic where he tricks like a demon who he sells his soul to. It's basically like the way he gets out of it is he sells his soul to like 20 different demons, and then they're all arguing over who gets his soul, and then none of them do, and that's how he gets out of it. Like that's what this film reminds me of, and I think that's the most important thing to emphasize about this film is that it's, even if the specific details of Constantine aren't accurate, it adapts the tone of those Vertigo comics perfectly. Everything from the cinematography to the hell design to the characters to the actors they've casted. It feels exactly like those early Jamie Delano comics.
Yes,
it's perfect. Yeah, absolutely perfect.
100%. And I think that's the best way to handle an adaptation of a comic book character where you're not sure if you're going to get any more, and you're just like, we're just going to do this movie. This is a Constantine movie, the same way they did Daredevil. We're like, this is a Daredevil movie. You're not setting up a trilogy. You're not trying to tie into any other thing else. You are just doing a Constantine film. And the best way to handle a character like that, also with Blade, did the same thing, is like, pull the best elements from those comics. Even like Constantine has a bunch of great story elements that they pull, like you say, into this movie, where it's like they pull that little bit from this comic, that little bit from over there, this bit from that comic here, and just kind of throw it in a blender in there, but have a different overarching story where you can have these little sub moments from other comics that happen, but they're happening in the context of this greater narrative. And I think this handles that perfectly. Like, this is the thing, is like, if we never got any other Constantine media ever, not that that'll ever happen because we're IP driven, but if that never happened again, I would be fine, because we got such a great film that understands its character, understands how to make a film first before making a franchise. And I think that's what this movie excels at, is this is a complete experience. I could leave the theater and be satisfied and be like, if I never get another thing with this character, I have this. And that's we peaked, you know? I love it so much. I'm so happy that this movie exists. I wish Jonah Hex got that.
And I was gonna say, and that's a perfect way for us to transition
Oh boy.
to our next film, because it fails in every aspect of what you just said.
Oh boy. It's time. Hit it.
Funny, he's our man. If he can't kill him, no one can. James Bond.
If that isn't
S to the B to the A to the on. S to the T to the A to the on. Yes, here we go. We've had our fun, boys. We've talked about our cinema. Now it's time to talk about the trash.
Get away
It's
from
time
the
to take
cinema.
out.
Get away from the cinema over there. It's time for your slop.
Yes, exactly. And we're diving straight into that pot of slop because we're looking at 1997 Spawn. Nick, do you even want to attempt this summary, or it's...
This is my hell, dude. This is me going down the flaming fucking tunnel. I'll try to summarize this piece of shit as briskly as I can. All right, boom. Open the film up. The worst fucking credit intro sequence I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not even being facetious. That shit, I hated that shit.
It's so bad.
Oh my god, it looks like a PS1 game, and it's playing a song. The song is called Satan. The song is called Satan. And it's like this 90s, like, they couldn't even get Marilyn Manson. Like, it's this fucking 90s, like, heavy metal. It's like, what a wow, but it's got like that, and it looks like the Drake and Josh intro, like,
It does.
logos. Like,
You got the green
like
text
with these
flying over
animated
things.
yeah.
No,
anyway,
yeah.
actually, a couple people from Drake and Josh are probably in hell, so it's it's actually fitting.
Damn.
Yeah, so we
Or at
get
least
this
are
dog
going
shit.
to hell. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is, they make you watch this movie on repeat down there.
Yeah.
So basically,
Yeah.
we get this dog shit ass intro sequence, PS1 fire
Yeah.
graphics, shitty ass 90s new metal playing in the background, and then for whatever reason, the
Yeah.
fucking credits, the end, only the N is like backwards. Like they're trying to be like, yeah, you can't even read the text to begin with because the shit is like just all over the place. It's like jumping around, but the N specifically in every word is like backwards. It
Yeah.
makes no fucking sense. But anyway, so we get the shitty intro.
Is it before or after the credits that they have the narration where he's like,
It's during.
heaven and hell have
It's
always...
during.
It's during
During.
it? Okay, yeah.
During.
Heaven and hell have always been at war with each other, and... I'm sorry,
we
Nick,
get
I'm
this-
sorry.
I just want everyone to know that this movie was directed by the guy that came up with the visual effects for The Abyss and Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park, who did the coding for the effects on those movies. Somehow,
Okay.
this is what happened.
You know what? Wally Pfister directed Transcendence.
That's
so,
true, yeah.
like, great
Oh, God.
visual eye doesn't always translate to great directing.
My God. So anyway, we get that shitty ass sequence that goes on for way too long, and we open up in an airport, and some fucking Blackwater Spec Ops guy beats the shit out of a bunch of Hong Kong guys at the airport, and then sets up this like drone with a rocket and blows away some like foreign leader. So then we cut to like suburbia somewhere in like fucking LA, I think. And it's Michael J.
Doesn't matter.
White's character. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Al Simmons, it's his house. That's the name of the character. It's his house. His wife is backing out. That we get greeted by his best friend Terry. And as they're driving to work, they're basically like,
I just
Terry.
Can I point
Incredible
out real
name.
quick, why in that sequence does he have his dog come out and he's like, Spaz, my good guard dog, and he just leaves his fucking dog in the front yard as they drive away and no one's home.
I remember that. Yeah, it's like the Spaz just wander the streets until he comes home. And then also, later in the movie, we're skipping ahead because it's a piece of shit, but like later in the movie, he sees him like all burnt to a crisp as like Spawn, and he's like, hey, Spaz, you recognize me. It's like... It's like 5 years later too. With like, if you're taking care of your dog like that, that dog would have been run over
And I'm pretty
like
sure he
way
says the dog.
before.
I think he says the dog is 17 when he first greets it in the movie, and then so it's got to be 22 years old at this point.
So the dog the dog has made its own Faustian pact
Yes.
somehow to like live forever.
The dog is actually the devil. It's Malbolgia.
right?
Probably.
So anyway, fucking Spawn or Al Simmons is just like, I want to get out of this life because oopsie, every time he does his like spec op shit, he ends up killing like a shit ton of civilians in the process.
How does this keep happening? Man, bad intel.
Because he's terrible at his job, and also his boss is a guy that has scorpions on his desk. So he's like, if I want to start a family, I better not work for mustache twirly McEvil man. Like, it's Martin Sheen is his boss, and he is like, he is hamming it up in this. He is like in a Full Moon movie.
He is 100%. Yeah, I just love that. He's like, man, this is like the 30th mission we've done in a row for this guy where innocent people die. I don't understand what's going on. He's the guy who's controlling the drone, blowing up an orphanage, and going, "Oopsies."
I was gonna say, I'm sorry. Keep going, Nick. I keep interrupting you. I apologize.
No, you're good. You don't know, you're good. I was just gonna say, his boy Terry is like the most self-aware fucking CIA agent. He's just like, we keep going on missions and we keep fucking slaughtering at least like 100+ people. Like, what's going on?
The damn bad intel.
Yeah. So anyway, So go ahead.
He gets cucked by a guy named Terry. This is worse than Captain America 1990. Like,
Dude.
at least you're getting cucked by like Captain America. This is like DB Sweetie. Like,
do you think Al and Terry were the ones they sent to Iraq to find the nuclear weapons? And they get there and like, wow, there's nothing here. Bad intel again. I tells you.
Damn it. We killed like 20 people right now just to get into this village. What happened, man? Shucks.
This is immediately pre-Bush years, so I just want to say, like, if this is like how the U.S. military was operating and getting their intel in the lead-up, it kind of makes sense the way things went down the way they did.
Al Simmons.
It's like, we had Al Simmons over there seeing if anything was going wrong.
He's watching the planes fly into the tower, and he goes, "That would have gone down that way if I was on those planes."
No, you know what it is? You know what it is? Al Simmons quits his job. And he gets work as a TSA agent. Oh, no. And it's like that meme of the guy like patting someone down, but he's not even touching him. It's like that.
Oh my god, yeah. Here's the thing: if Al Simmons was on that plane during 9/11, he would have killed like twice as many people.
He would have gone down there. Oh, yes. He would have crashed into a plane into the tower.
I was gonna say, Al
actually would have hit the Pentagon.
Al Simmons would have managed to get one plane through both towers and the Empire State Building and the Sears Tower.
In 2021, Al Simmons is flying on this weird island. He gets there. He's just like, wow, there's sure a lot of children on this Epstein Island. Huh? There's a lot of kids here. How weird. And then he just leaves. Bad intel again. There's no pedophiles here.
Okay, all right. Anyway, let me wrap up this shitty ass film.
Keep going.
All right, so long story short, Al's just like, okay, look, I'm a little bit tired of committing war crimes. I want to start a family. So he goes to his boss, and he's just like, I don't want to do this shit anymore. And his boss just like, yeah, whatever, buddy. Anyway, we got one more mission. So they go to North Korea. They go to a bioweapon, like chemical plant, wherever the fuck. There, he gets double crossed. They get shot, lit on fire, and then the fucking place explodes and unleashes, even in death, unleashes a fucking plague onto like a local village downstream. So even when he fucking dies, he's still committing war crimes. And then we get this amazing shot when he's going down the shitty PS1 fire tunnel to hell, and he just screams, "Wanda!" And it's just like falling, just like butt ass naked, as his fucking taint just burned to a crisp.
I gotta tell you, my first week living in Texas, I sure felt like Al Simmons.
Well, even like just like the setup to this is fucking hilarious because he's at this like little location, which is just some like fucking abandoned factory they were filming it, I'm sure. But like there's like a guard, and he literally like karate chops his neck, and he like falls down. It's like Captain Kirk. He's like, and like, he just goes down, and then like he's like gonna plant a ball. I forget how it is, but then like Martin Sheen just shows up in like
girls show up in like
military
their Power Rangers outfits.
Yeah, and he's just like he's like, oh, there's a village down the street. He's like, that might make a pretty good test subject. And Al Simmons is like, you're out of your mind. I'm not gonna let you do this. And he like aims the gun at him. Like, it's like the delivery is terrible. And then and he gets shot by the lady. Like, and he's like on the ground. And then he say something. He's like, "Do you wipe his ass too?"
And then Martin Sheen just covers him in goo.
Yeah, Martin Sheen. Yes. Okay, so it's not as sexual as it sounds. But he has like a M16, but instead of like a grenade launcher on the bottom, he has like a squirt gun with like Nickelodeon goo like on it,
The
and
slime.
he just squirts it on. He just slimes like Al Simmons, and then he's like, "See it, hell," and he like Martin Sheen
Flicks the fucking cigarette at him.
Every fucking line Martin Sheen says in this is like wrong. Like it's delivered wrong. And there's one, we're jumping ahead, but there's a baffling scene in this, like in the third act, where he's talking to the clown, and the clown is like, "Actually, what hell wants you to do is get hooked up to a device where if your heart stops beating, they'll send off nuclear missiles, meaning no one could kill you." That's literally the dialogue.
Yes.
And then it cuts to Martin Sheen, and he goes, "That's a good idea. I like that." Like, you're not gonna ask. No follow-up questions. He's just, "That's a good idea. I like that."
Yeah, it's wow, it's a fucking doozy. Let's see if we can get through this. God damn it. So anyway, Spawn dies, gets sent to hell, comes back 5 years fucking later. He wakes up in an alley with a bunch of homeless people. And then he like shuffles off to go find his house. That's where he goes to a birthday party at his old home, realized that his best friend has cucked him, and not only cucked him by taking his girl, but taking his girl and then knocking her up because they have a whole ass kid. So then, after being kind of distraught about that, the Violator, the demon clown, played I think incredibly by John Leguizamo, who was just having a grand old fucking time. And we'll get to his performance in a second, but the Violator takes Spawn away, shows him his grave, and basically tells him like, hey buddy, this is what happened. You died, you got sent to hell, you immediately folded on your Faustian deal. You were just like, yeah, no, I'll take it. Fucking, what is it, malignant or alopecia? What's the name of the big ass demon?
Malbolgia.
Malbolgia, this incredibly dog shit looking CGI demon just tells Spawn, he's just like, lead my armies and I'll send you back to get Wanda, which will never not be funny whenever anyone says that name.
You will not have a penis, but you will be able to see her again. The taint is permanently gone.
to give our audiences a visual, his mouth does not move when he talks, so just keep that in mind.
Just gaping.
Exactly.
So, and he immediately, he's just like, yeah, I'll take the deal. Send me back up. So he beams him back up. Again, nuts burned off completely. Sends him back up. And then he starts developing his like weird ectoplasm Spawn powers. And we get his look that he has for most of the film. And like, we'll talk about his costume design in a second. But we come back and he attempts to go kill Martin Sheen, and he succeeds in killing his like sexy femme fatale girlfriend, but then he misses him, narrowly avoids him. We get like Andy had mentioned, the Violator being like, we're gonna put a fucking bomb thing in your heart and it's gonna set off the nukes if you die. So then we get that sequence, and then Spawn is like thinking about his plans to like go murk Martin Sheen after he finds him again. That's when we get introduced to the character, what is his name, fucking Callisto, whatever the fuck.
Cagliostro.
Cagliostro, the iconic Cagliostro.
How could you forget?
So, yeah, my bad. So, old Cagliostro comes up, and we keep seeing brief glimpses of him, including in the very beginning of the film when he just randomly walks out into the street, and then he has like this really shitty like glowing green effect over him. And then we just cut away. Like
every fucking sequence he appears in the first act of this movie, he's got this shitty green outline around him, and you're just like, why? It looks so horrible.
But he says he's like, the first part is like where he like just runs into Spawn. He's like, you're letting them get to you. And he's like, get the fuck out of my way.
Oh my god.
Old man.
Speaking of the horrible intro sequence, by the way, I love that there's just a shot of him in the intro in the fire, and it's just reused footage from his first scene in the movie where he goes, oh my god, how can we forget?
There's doves flying.
Yes.
There's doves
I
flying.
have fucking forgotten. It's the same shot because for whatever reason he's there when Al Simmons is committing fucking terrorism and blowing up the plane. You see the fucking missile fly, and he goes,
How could we? No, Marty, you're so right. How the fuck could we forget?
Okay.
So when he blows up like that world leader, randomly Callisto is just fucking sitting there, just like, observing.
Cagliostro could have stopped 9/11. He'd be like, look, you might want to start doing better background checks in these flight schools that you're sending all these people to.
He's like, I don't think we should be giving Saudi Arabia all this money. I'm just saying.
You might want to have a locking door on those cockpits.
There's a lot of children going to this island. You might want to look into that.
Oh, can you imagine? Like, the Epstein's jet is flying on, and it's just him like, like he's on the
30 on that one, 40 on that one.
but he's got like a big sun hat on, like a big wicker sun hat.
Just
and like
drinks Mai Tai while he's watching.
Hawaiian shirt. He's like, There's really not much more to talk about in this film because it's just
no,
fights
wait, we're almost done.
Yeah.
We're almost done. So basically, after we get that little fucking superpower lesson, he's just like Cagliostto's just like, you can use your powers. You have to concentrate.
Where chains come out of his nipples. Where chains come out of his nipples
Chains
and
fly out of
break
his
bottles.
And he's got the belt penis too that bites the girl.
Yes.
So someone tries to kick him in the nuts and the fucking go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying that the sexy femme fatale chick, she like tries to kick him in the nuts, and his belt like extends out like a fucking like metal penis, like it just shoots out and bites her on the leg, and then later on his nipples, like he gets like spawn faces on his nipples, and they like shoot out with like hell chains. It's insane. This film is fucking insane.
We're not making this up. I don't.
No, I promise you, we're not.
Why would you try to kick him in the nuts? He doesn't have a dick. He's just smooth down there.
They got burned off. She doesn't know. She doesn't know the tank got burned. So all right, to finish up this piece of shit, he fights the Violator, gets his ass kicked, comes back, and he like fights he tries to go save, I guess, Wanda and his family because what's his name, Sheen is there. So then anyway, he goes, he fights the Violator again. They both, him and Cagliostto, get sent to hell. They fight Malignant, or whatever the fuck his name is, and his legions. Then they win. They get sent back to Earth. They kill the Violator by beheading him. And then everyone's like, okay, all's well that ends well. Fucking Martin Sheen gets booked up for all these war crime stuff because reporting is the real hero of this film. And then he like walks off into the sunset, I think. That's it.
No, it ends on like a sequel teaser where like Malbolge is like, "Oh, get him!" It's so fucking bad.
No, he like flies up through the butthole like back into like our world, and there's just like the CGI head. He's like, "You'll never escape me!" Like, but he just did.
He literally just did.
There's so many terrible things to talk about this movie. Like, I honestly don't really know where to begin. Like,
all right, let's talk about the few positives. Let's talk about the few positives.
Okay,
I think that John Leguizamo, I think his Violator is it's fun. I'm not necessarily going to say it's good, but it's fun. He's having a grand old fucking time. Also, again, not super duper familiar with the Spawn comics, but at least from what I do remember of the Violator in the comics, I think John Leguizamo in both look from like the costume department, like he looks just like him. I don't know how do you manage to get him to be like so short, rotund, and squatty, but like his practical costume, it works. I'm not even going to hold it. Like, his film is a piece of shit, but he looks like the Violator, and as over the fucking top as it is, John Leguizamo's like performances, like I think nails what that character is. Just this goofy, sadistic clown. Like he is just incredible in this, for better or worse.
Unlike Martin Sheen, he knew what movie he was in, so he's just like,
Yes.
I'm gonna fucking have a ball then. And yeah, he's so much fun to watch. He's the only thing that makes this movie tolerable. Honestly, it's just
Literally the only thing.
I'm like, just give me the next scene with Violator, please, for the love of God. And I love that bit where Al goes to like the birthday party, and he's the clown for the family or whatever, and he's all performing, and he's got like clown makeup on, and he's just like being a total fucking creep around these kids. He's just like, my
There's
children cried.
There's an incredible shot too when he's like there's an incredible shot too, like during that party sequence when he's a clown dressed up as a more traditional clown, but there's a quick shot when he's like just talking shit. He's just like, yeah, go on, you little bastards, after like they break the piñata, and he just for no reason has like a fucking drink in his hand. He's like some fucking whiskey on the rocks. I don't know why, I was just like, I love that shot.
Oh, don't mind him, that's my friend Crispy. What are you doing over here?
There's so many scenes in this where John Leguizamo will just come out of nowhere, and it's probably because they're like, oh, we need to save this scene somehow. Because there's like this big shootout, like at this there's this big shootout at like this ballroom, like, and then he kills the lady who tries to kick him in the nuts, and then it's like fucking
he's
the violator comes up.
Sheen over. He's like, "Hey, I'll come over here." He's just like, "You gotta hook the thing up
with
to
a
your,
shrimp in his
to
hand.
your heart."
Yeah.
Oh,
With the shrimp in- he has his
when the
cocktail
lady
shrimp in his
dies, when the lady dies, he comes up with like a fucking tray. And he's all dressed up.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot about that.
He's like, I knew you had it in you, Spawny. And then like Spawn gets shot, and he like falls into like the kitchen. And as he falls, you could see like Michael Jai White's like sneakers underneath like the boots of the Spawn costume, which is great. Like in one brief shot. But then he like sits up, and like the terrible like CGI bullet holes close, and he just goes, "Damn!" Like,
Oh my
I
god!
forgot about that. Yeah.
I forgot
so
that.
bad. It's just, like, okay, this whole thing is a mess. Our review is going to kind of be a mess.
Yes.
Because it's all over the place. But like Michael Jai White's great. The makeup is great. The makeup is astounding.
Well,
It's
that's
for
the
what they're
wonder,
going for.
the wonder of KMB Effects. Nicotero and Berger's company. They do such fantastic makeup work that the one's still keeping it going to this very day. Their work on Leguizamo's Violator and Spawn is fucking great. I really love the
Yes.
look of it. I really love how it looks. I don't know how they got Leguizamo into that fucking outfit and made him able to
Yes.
kind of walk around. Impressive as hell. Honestly, fantastic stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of it can be covered up with some of the most ungodly CG you've seen in your life.
Literally, some of the worst shit I've ever seen in my life, bro. This is like my Dreamcast had better fucking graphics than this shit. It's insane.
Yeah. This had like a $45 million budget for the 90s, which is like almost the equivalent of like a Venom movie now, which is like not nothing to sneeze at. You had some money. Where did it go?
Yeah.
It's a Martin Sheen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all into
literally.
Martin Sheen. Yeah, when he's smoking that cigar, he just gets rolled up dollar bills.
Well, it's so funny. Okay, there's so much CGI in this that costs so much money.
Yeah.
It's all dog shit, and it's all for nothing. Like, remember when like he's chasing like the Violator on a motorcycle, and like the Violator's like on the back of a gasoline truck, and then like Spawn's cape wraps around the fucking motorcycle and turns it into like a Spawn mobile, and then later he just turns into like a big spike that like the truck rams into. First off, let me just point this out, because this came out in, I'm looking it up, 1997. Okay, this is as bad as far as just like being written around the merchandise they wanted to sell as Batman and Robin, which also came out this year. Yeah. This is as bad, like as far as just like cheap, cynical ways of selling toys. Because like, why else would you spend all
than this? But yes,
yes, it is. It is. Well, I mean, Joel Schumacher is better than Mark DePay or whatever.
Are you saying that he's better than the landmark filmmaker? Oh my God, what tab is it? I lost the tab. No,
Mark A.Z. DePay.
Z. DePay, who is the director of such classic works as Halloween Town High, Frankenfish, Garfield Gets Real, Garfield's Fun Fest, Garfield's Pet Forest, The Reef 2 High Tide, Gusty Frog, The Boxcar Children, Michael Jackson's Halloween from 2017, that's weird, and the 2022 Netflix film Marmaduke.
I was unaware that there was a Marmaduke movie starring Pete Davidson as Marmaduke.
Oh my
but
god!
It makes sense that it's from the director of Spawn.
Holy shit!
It's important to point out that, like, as we talk about this, I just realized we just have to do a commentary on it because there's so much to talk about. But like, every scene, there's something that makes you just kind of go like, "What?" Yeah. Like, it's not funny. It's not cool. It's like it's just baffling. Like, we should talk about like the final climax fight scene in Hell, because that's hysterical. First off, what
is even going on? What is even happening?
It's Cagliostro and Spawn versus Malbolgia. So basically what this accounts to is it's an 68-year-old man and a guy who can't see through the makeup he's in fighting a PS1 game. Like, there's that part where like the Cagliostro or Malbolgia just starts like biting down on Spawn, and like Cagliostro's like, "Use your armor," and like just chains come off and like it's
yeah, oh my god. And then
it's insane.
You have all the other like Spawn wannabes or whatever that he's making for his army that are just freaking the fuck out in the background.
Yeah, they're literally like just going like,
They literally
They
got
look like
Michael
the
J.
World War
White.
Z zombies.
Yeah, they got Michael J. White to just like be in front of a green screen and start like just having like convulsions and like just doing like literally whatever the fuck, and they copy and pasted him like a million times, like all over to be like the little Spawn army.
They absolutely just paid some intern to put him in the Spawn suit to do that at Industrial Light and Magic or whatever.
It's so bafflingly bad. This has got to be like one of the worst things we've ever talked about on this show, for sure.
Oh, 100%.
Yes, 100%. Yeah,
Because here's the thing. I think you put this in the notes, Andy, for the outline. Like, this film is so simple and stupid, and yet too complicated.
Yes.
Like, for what it has going on, it still somehow manages to do too fucking much.
For a movie that is 89 minutes before the credits roll, it feels so empty and so disgustingly filled with just shit. There's so much plot in this fucking movie for a movie that should just be a very simple, I went to hell, I'm back, I'm gonna take my revenge. They complicate the fuck out of it, and then of course every character, like Martin Sheen, has to have his motivation. Why is he doing this? Because I guess he wants to blow up the world, because then the devil's gonna give it to him. Okay.
It makes no sense. Baffling.
Imagine if in the third act of The Crow, they just revealed that like the villains that The Crow is going after also have a nuclear bomb, and they're gonna set it off. Like that's like the leap that this movie makes, because it's like with Spawn, it's like he's just supposed to be in an alley killing drug dealers and weird like pedophile ice cream men, and occasionally there's like a clown demon. Yep. That's it. Like how the fuck do you fuck that up? Like, it's...
Yeah, I forgot to mention, because it's so baffling, that Martin Sheen, like, his whole thing is he had fucking nukes. Like that, like that's the level of like shit we're dealing with. It's like, what is even going on here? Like, what is even happening? Because it comes out of fucking nowhere. It's just like, all right, he made a deal with the devil for like exchange for like power. That's like what we're set up to be. I'm like, okay, cool.
He already has power.
Exactly. But then it's just like, oh, by the way, he also has access to all the nukes of the world somehow. And even though he's not the president, he has access to all the fucking nukes in the world. No one's stopping him from that, and then also it's tied to his pacemaker.
He has his dead zone moment. The nukes are flying. Hallelujah. I am baffled. I am baffled that this is from New Line Cinema less than a year before they released Blade.
Also, right after they released The Mask.
Yes.
Like, the Mask isn't like the greatest thing ever made, but like, holy shit. Like,
shit.
That is like the ideal version of this.
It's like whatever producer told them on Blade, like, oh, you have to have a big blood monster thing at the end of the movie. That's the guy that they listened to on all of Spawn.
Yeah. It's so great. It's like there's this weird part at the end where like he thinks that Wanda's been killed, and then it turns out it's just Violator, and so like he starts like doing all these gyrations and shit. Like
it's just so a baffling weird fucking film.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where there's certain moments where it's like, this is okay-ish, where like when he goes to the grave, right, his own grave, and he like digs it up, like there's a decent amount of atmosphere, and like the suit looks good, like the practical suit.
That's another sequence, though, where there's like an unnecessary CG moment where fucking clown throws the fucking shovel and it's got his face on it and it talks at him.
Yeah. Well, also, there's the part where he lifts up the locket and there's like a green glow coming off of it. And I kid you, I got this from a Nostalgia Critic episode, I will not lie, but I'm not kidding. I paused it even on the Blu-ray. If you look at it, the green effect is clipped at the top. It's just like ruler straight at the top, because it's like a clip art effect that they put on there. Like,
oh my god.
So, also, this is like, okay, I texted the chat, I'm like, why is the intro to this movie like Hellboy 2019's intro, where it just feels like they had like 20 minutes of footage and they cut it into like 3 or 4 minutes. And this is the same case where it's like so much of his like backstory with his wife and that relationship is instead suicide squatted into the movie later on, where they've cut it up into little flashes and everything. It's like, oh, I'll love you, I'll never leave you, I want you to get out of this life, oh, you can't do this, we gotta be together forever. It's like, this feels like this was supposed to be the opening sequence for this character after he blows up the fucking plane or whatever.
He's like, you're not going to fuck my best friend, are you, if I die horrifically? And she's like, no, I never would do that.
I love that Terry's thing is like, my wife? And he goes like, she was so sad when you died, man.
Like,
I just had to
I'll punch you. And he's like, he's got it by like the throat, and he's like, ow, you died. Wanda was devastated, and it's like, isn't their daughter Cyan like at least 4? So it's like less than a year after he died, and he's like taking her to Pound Town. Like,
I'm gonna get her right in real. I'm gonna violate her mouth.
Well, 19-year-old. Oh my God.
No, for real. He's just like, how could you? He's just like, bro, your wife was like so sad. I had to cream pie her, bro. Like, you know what I mean? She was just so sad.
She was just so sad. I had to make her smile.
Yeah.
And then the worst part.
While they're doing it, he goes, "Call me Al."
Yeah. No, like it's so bad because after he's like explaining like, you know, why he like, you know, cucked his buddy like less than a year presumably after his death, then Spawn is just like, damn, yeah, it just kind of accepts it, like doesn't even like literally holds no like other emotion out. He's just like, damn, that makes sense, all right, yeah, fair enough, you go, bro. Like,
I'm gonna get just completely drops it. Better be you, Terry.
You know, I don't know a funny fact about this. So Terry Fitzgerald. Imagine getting cucked by a guy named Terry Fitzgerald. I feel like, send me back to hell. Like,
devastating.
Terry Fitzgerald in the comic. Terry is African American in the comics. But the studio, they cast DB Sweeney because they said, we have to have like another white person in this movie. I shit you not. That's why they cast.
Are you shitting? Are you kidding me?
Shit you not. Yeah, they said they said like they needed like a white protagonist. I'm like, you got the 68-year-old man that's like a fucking old knight, like
insane, fucking insane. That's blowing my fucking mind right now. Like
we have one black man and he's the lead. Now we need DB in here.
We literally have 2.5 black people in this film, and they're like, that's too much. That's too much. We need to balance this out. We need more white people, even though the majority of the cast is all white.
There's too much melanin in the Spawn movie. Okay. Let's put on our thinking. Let's put our conspiracy caps on, everybody. Why is the one black man in this movie the one whose genitals get burned off?
Much to think about.
Okay, I don't want to get into too much conspiracy stuff, but okay, so Wanda is named after Todd McFarlane's wife. Al Simmons, I believe, is named after his high school roommate or his college roommate, and I think Terry Fitzgerald is like one of his friends. So I'm like, why do you have your college roommate banging your wife and then getting cucked by like your best friend? Like, because it's, you know, sometimes, you know, we as writers sometimes use names of people we know as like homages, but it's not like, okay, well, my significant other is going to be the one that's getting railed in this fucking movie
by my buddy, by my roommate.
Yeah.
Hey, Terry. Terry, I'm gonna write you in my Spawn comics, and you're gonna fuck my wife. Do you like how that sounds, Terry? What about in real life? You want to come by? I'll make a nice dinner.
I have a chair for you, Terry. I have a chair. I just sit right here and watch.
I just play with my Spawn action figures, and I watch you do your business.
I just want to bring up like the baffling human being that Todd McFarlane is.
Please.
Like, I'm searching through my camera roll right now because I physically downloaded a thing he put on Facebook like 8 years ago where he did the Fortnite dance to announce that McFarlane Toys had the rights to Fortnite. I'm desperately trying to find it right now. Like, I promise you I have it. But he is a baffling individual because, like, on the one hand, he's an incredibly...
Do you want to watch Spawn do the floss dance, everyone? Look at Spawn doing the floss dance.
I put Spawn in Fortnite.
I found it! It's going to you guys just watch it real quick. Like, it's incredible.
Are you texting it to
absolutely us? Yes, I did.
It's going to have to be
and you know what, yes. You know what, I'll just play it. I'll play the audio over it. Like, so people can hear it in the mic.
Please do it.
Yeah, here we go.
Todd McFarlane. If you go to McFarlane.com, you're going to see the biggest news that we've got. One of the biggest brands, matter of fact, might be the biggest brand on the globe right now. We're going to be making toys. Go to our website. If not, I'll give you a little bit of a clue as to what it might be. Ready? See if you can guess. Ready? Here we go. It's and it's actually
What's up the fucking sign?
Hang on, what? Right here.
Those are real funny.
Those are real 20s. We get it, you're rich. Like, and here we go.
You know this one.
Oh no. No. Todd, why?
What we're doing. Go to our website, see what we're going to do. It's coming to you this Christmas.
Coming to your dudes this Christmas. Come on, everybody.
Okay, so I will.
Come on, everybody. Come on, everybody. Let's get swifty now.
Okay, so I'm going to post that on the No More Talking Production social media so everyone can see it too. But like,
Yeah,
in case you're wondering,
into the show.
in case you're wondering why this movie ended up the way that it did and why the next Spawn movie hasn't happened yet, even though he's been talking about it for like 18 years, it's because he's fucking Fortnite dancing around his offices. Like, instead of doing literally anything. And that's the thing. It's like, okay, Nick, you were talking about earlier, like you've read some early Spawn and you're like, I don't have the greatest memories of it.
Yeah.
Martin, how much Spawn have you read? Just out of curiosity.
Literally
how much
the
have you
early
read?
stuff, and then I've heard like shortened versions of what happens later on. And I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I stopped.
Yes. Okay. So basically, like the first 12 issues of Spawn are like okay 90s schlock. We were just talking about this before we started recording. If you go on, even an issue beyond that, it is a baffling mess of, again, it feels like both super complicated but also incredibly simple. I'll actually direct people to there's a video by Matt Draper on YouTube that really sort of breaks down why the Spawn comic sucks, because nothing happens ever. It's just him walking around and then an alley fight and then he's back in the alley and nothing ever happens ever. But like they keep talking about how there's going to be this big army thing coming. So like Todd McFarlane is baffling because he's one of the most important people in comics. He's an excellent illustrator. He's one of my all-time favorite comic book artists. He should never write anything ever or have any creative decisions ever.
He is an amazing artist. His Spider-Man work I adore. I love his Spider-Man work. He is a fantastic artist. His writing is god awful, to say the least. And it's just it's the same thing with like a Jack Kirby or a Rob Liefeld, where it's like there's some great art in their well, I don't know. Okay, well I got to throw Rob in there, but there's some great art in their portfolio. Jack Kirby's got fantastic art. Todd McFarlane's got fantastic art. All of their writing around the board is always not good. So
well, first off, Jack Kirby's comics are 1,000 times better than the Spawn comics, or 1,000 times better written. Because at least something happens. And this might be a hot take. On the whole, Rob Liefeld might be a better writer than Todd McFarlane. He might be. Because at least his comics are like kind of brisk. Mm-hmm. I do enjoy like some of Todd McFarlane's writing on Spider-Man, but that's mostly because the art is absolutely incredible and it sort of makes up for it. He has openly said that like he doesn't read books, and I've heard that from don't come at me. Like I heard it from cartoonist kayfabe, so that's who I got this information from, but I'm willing to trust their opinion on it. Like, you look at Todd McFarlane, you look at the stuff he writes, you look at his creative tastes, you're like, I bet he doesn't read books. Like, I can see it. I'm not saying he's illiterate.
I don't like to read books, but I do love to see my wife get fucked by other men. You know, I was involved with a 1990 Captain America movie. I went, why isn't Captain America fucking the old woman? Why isn't he? Why isn't Captain Cucula in this?
No, I entirely believe that. You know, respectfully, I just from what I have read of Todd McFarlane stuff, and then especially seeing that fucking clip, I'm like, yeah, that tracks. And you know, on that note, Andy, that you're bringing up, where it's like the art's incredible. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I've always at least appreciated about seeing Todd McFarlane stuff is like whenever I read it, I'm like, oh, this is not good, but like I see the art and I'm like, it looks dope. You know what I mean? Like on the point of like Spawn, exactly. Like on the point of Spawn himself. I don't really care for the character, certainly not after this film. But I always like enjoyed like the pure aesthetics of it. Like I love Spawn's design. You know what I mean? Like he looks sick as fuck. Like his it's oozing with 90s edge, but like it looks great. What's going on, Andy? You're over
Andy
here
looks
dying.
like
What's happening
right now?
Does
happening, bro?
Does anybody want to hear what Todd McFarlane sounds like when he gets cucked? Because I have it.
Oh my god, let's hear it.
This is where he recreated his Stan Lee's Thor cameo from Thor Ragnarok. Here we go.
Hold still, Todd. My hands are not as, firm as they used to be, and I don't see very well.
No!
Yes!
No!
Yes!
No!
No, stop.
No, I love it. No, don't do something good with my character. No.
No, stop it. Get your hands off my wife. No, stop.
Stanley.
Wanda.
Yes.
Oh god. No,
This is so baffling 'cause
no,
there's-
Stan, get away from her with your long testicles.
Stanley's the opposite of Spawn because he has like the longest balls.
That's,
like 91.
that's why he burned off Spawn's testicles, because he's just like, nothing will live up to Stan's drooping sack.
Jesus.
And it makes sense because all those image guys were like fondling his balls like for 20 years. Yes. No. No. I don't want to bag on Stanley. That's Stanley's legacy is a whole other conversation. But like, the thing with Todd McFarlane is like, it's worth noting that Spawn has been around for 30 years, is an incredibly popular character, has had tons of merchandise, a movie, animated series, what have you. The only comics worth reading, I'm telling you, the only comics worth reading in that entire 30-year history is a brief run of Sam and Twitch by Brian Michael Bendis. Out of a 30-year history, there's maybe 2 trade paperbacks worth of actually stuff that's worth reading. It's baffling. How? How do you continue to make that much crap?
These are side detective characters that exist in the Spawn world that are seeing Spawn's antics from another point of view. It is a much more interesting point of view than following Spawn on his adventures.
That's what Todd McFarlane was for years saying the Spawn reboot was going to be. Was it was going to be the main focus was going to be Sam and Twitch the cops, and it was just going to be Spawn in the background as like a horror movie character. And that's a great idea, but not if Todd McFarlane's writing and directing it. Oh my god!
Oh, no.
Like it would have made like it would have made Hellboy 2019 look like Hellboy 2004.
Yeah, if anyone's curious why we've never gotten another Spawn movie, it is because Todd McFarlane has aggressively said, like, I'm the one directing it, I'm the one writing it, no one else is going to touch this property. And because of that, the one that's supposed to star Jamie Foxx and Jeremy Renner has been in production hell for like a decade at this point at Blumhouse.
Yes, I genuinely thought it was going to go ahead when Blumhouse got involved and like Jamie Foxx and Jeremy Renner got cast. I'm like, this is the farthest it's ever got along. That was 8 years ago. Nick, we went to college together. I was a freshman in college when we were doing this. Like I was going through orientation. Remember orientation at our college?
Oh
How long ago that feels? That's when they announced this. Like,
Jesus Christ.
Also, I should bring up one other thing that's like, because we've lost this train of thought. Oh, go ahead, Nick. You have something to say.
I just wanted to circle back real quick. So like, again, Spawn, like aesthetically, like I like the design. I think it's cool, and I liked his inclusion in MK11. That's about the extent of like my tolerance for fucking Spawn as a character, which is, again, it's an insane when you compare that or put that up against the fact that, like you said, Andy, 30 years. This character's been around for 30 fucking years. You know what I mean? And at one point was a media juggernaut in terms of just being everywhere. Was like in every fucking thing. You know what I mean? Had all these different multimedia ventures. But it's so insane that it's just like it's this poorly written that this character is yet endured in spite of all of that. So to me, that's always been insane. And I will say, I do appreciate one of the things that's always appealed to me is he's one of the few like black superheroes that I'm aware of that doesn't come out of the big two, which I always kind of enjoyed. He also has that static shock thing going on where it's just like, you're like, oh, cool. Like it's a black superhero, which makes it even fucking funnier for me. Because like Andy said earlier, like the fact that they were like, because Terry, like one of the few things I know about comics is like, yeah, like Spawn and Terry, like they're both like black guys. And then the fucking producers were just like, there's too many black guys in this film. Like we need to add a little more mayo to this. That just kind of baffled me. But then again, Spawn itself is fucking baffling, and I don't know why it's around this long. Also, the cape is too fucking long. I'm sorry, I got to get this off my chest. The cape is too fucking much. It's too much in the comics, and it's too fucking much here in the movie. Yeah. Like what that one particular shot when he's like falling off the building, and then his cape comes out and it like flies him away. Mm-hmm. The entire screen is taken up with that fucking terrible CGI cape, and then it ends on a shot of him like on the fucking like a gargoyle post, like on top of a building, and we get that what's supposed to be an iconic shot, with the cape on him flowing in the night wind and his big ass fucking collar coming out of it. Like they were trying to do something there, but like to me, I'm like, this looks terrible. Too much cape. Get rid of the fucking cape, goddammit.
The ending of like Jimmy Neutron, where like the three-eyed like monkey would come up and go like, "Hi, I'm Paul." Like that's what it looks like.
It does, yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to make 2 points. I'd like to make 2 points because I'm obsessed with Spawn. When I was a kid, my dad wouldn't let me read him because my dad would not let me read the comics because it had the devil in it.
Saying I'm obsessed with Spawn is just as funny as going, "There's discontent in this Constantine fan community."
No. Look, so I've like had a lifelong love of Spawn because it was like one of those like forbidden things. Again, because the devil's in it. It's Satan. Ooh, like you're not allowed to read that.
Andy. You can't read it.
You can't read it, Andy. That's the real reason.
It's an urban superhero. You can't do it.
It's a little. Your parents just look at it and go, "It's a little too urban."
Maybe if that Terry guy was white, maybe you could read it.
Maybe if Terry's white.
The guy who created him is white. He's Canadian. It doesn't get any whiter than that.
Doesn't get any more urban than that.
So I just because this is like a forbidden thing, I started to formulate in my head like, oh, Spawn, it's so legendary. What must go on in this comic? It's so like interesting. Like, and then I finally got to it. And I was it's like Friday the 13th, right? Like you hear about Friday the 13th when you're a kid and you're like, this must be the most fucking extreme movie of all time. And then you watch it and they're like chopped to hell and they're the lamest shit you've ever seen. And I like them, but like and, Friday the 13th has infinitely more nuance than Spawn, so whatever. But so like getting to the Spawn comics, I'm like, what? And so I would just like to point out that me at 11 years old coming up with like headcanon of what Spawn is better than what like professional writers and artists have been doing with the character for the last 30 years. Second point I'd like to make, if you're wondering why the character has been stuck in this, there's an interview going back to like when this was first announced, like the Blumhouse thing. Todd McFarlane did an interview with Collider Films, so this has got to be good.
Oof.
This has got to be good. Announcing Blumhouse taking over the Spawn license, whatever. And so he's sitting there with the Collider guy, and he's talking about how he wants Spawn to be the only supernatural thing in the movie. And he goes, because the movies I like, his words, I'm paraphrasing, but his words, he goes, the movies I liked when I was a kid only had one fantastic thing in them. He goes, and he literally uses the example of like, so I love Frankenstein. He goes, but when you get to the Bride of Frankenstein, it's like, no way. Like,
the only fantastical thing I want in my movie, there can only be one fantastical thing, and the fact that there's a black man in it is already too fantastical as it is.
Well, he also brought up Iron Man. He's like the first Iron Man's good because it's just Iron Man. He goes, and then the second one, he's like, they brought in the other Iron Man. He goes, and he's beating him up, so he's not even best Iron Man.
He sits down to watch Into the Spider-Verse, and he's like, oh, a new Spider-Man movie, okay. And he just sees Miles Morales, he goes like, I can't stand this. There's too many fantastical elements in these movies.
It's just a fucking dog whistle this whole time. Every time it's just like fantastical element. I was walking down the street on the bus and I saw a couple of fantastic elements.
is Spawn? Is that why when Spawn does his like incantations, you know, it's always just like the OK symbol?
Damn, I didn't know Todd McFarlane was like a diehard, like blonde Constantine fan. Crazy.
Spawn is gonna move from Blumhouse to the Daily Wire.
You know,
I found the perfect home for this.
I think their values really aligned with what I wanted to do with Spawn, so I'm happy to announce that now Jeremy Renner will be Spawn in our movie.
Oh my god. Would it shock you guys? Okay, there's a documentary on Sci-Fi, an hour-long documentary about Todd McFarlane that came out a few years ago called Todd McFarlane, The Devil You Know. Would it shock you that the opening shows like a bunch of like B-roll footage of him hiking in the mountains, kneeling down, looking out over the mountains, and then also him like speedboxing a heavy bag in his art studio? He's literally got like the boxing gloves on, and he's like punching the heavy bag, and he's like, my entire life has been a bet. I've been having to fight against people my whole life. Let me at him. Let me at him. I've got Spawn, and then in 15 years I'm going to make Haunt.
My God. Holy
I'm making
shit.
this up. I'm like probably the world's biggest Spawn fan left. Like, and I don't even read the goddamn thing.
Do you think he looked over, because this is around the time that Milestone Media was made, which is the company that made Static Shock and all these like specifically black superheroes.
Hardware.
Do you think he looked over and was like, there's a lot of magical elements of that company. I just can't work for them. There's not enough mayo in this.
You know, okay. I gotta look up the release dates because he claims that. Okay, I also if we're talking about like African American Image Comics superheroes, I do have an aside because I've read a lot of Image Comics because they were in the quarter bins when I was in 6th grade. Okay, so I would be going through the Frank and Sons quarter bins, just pulling out all these Image Comics. So I guess we'll just do the first one. So there's a character called Shadow. Whose identity is a mystery, okay? Created by Jim Valentino. His identity is a mystery for first couple issues. His whole thing is he's like Batman, except he breaks people's spines. And there's many shots of him just like with thugs, and he's like breaking their spine because it's the 90s. So when it's fun, okay. So the way he's revealed, I kid you not, is he's fighting like a really racist villain. The villain drops a slur, and then Shadowhawk pulls off his mask, revealing himself to be African American. He goes, "Oh, you mean like me?" And the reveal, I kid you not, you have to turn the comic. So you're reading it like this. You have to turn it upside down, and there's a tri-page spread that comes out about this far down. That's just the reveal that he's a black dude. And would you like to know what his origin is? Would you like to know what his origin is?
Sure.
He got mugged, and his muggers. I can't make this up. He got mugged, and his muggers injected him with HIV-infected blood.
Oh my God!
And with what time he has left, he wants to fight crime.
Oh, you can't make this shit up. What the fuck?
Shadowhawk.
What the actual fuck?
Look it up. I'm not kidding.
I was already baffled when you said they put out a fucking Playboy centerfold to show that he was a black guy, but then his fucking origin story is that he got needled with AIDS, and then he's just using his last remaining days on Earth to fight crime. Yo, I gotta cut in that Donald Sterling fucking clip. He's got AIDS. He's got AIDS.
What has he done? Can you tell me? Big Magic Johnson, what has he done?
Well, he's a business person.
He's got AIDS.
It's so insane. Like, and one of his best friends, I'm reading here on the Wikipedia page, one of his best friends is a cop who got kicked off the force for using excessive force.
Gee, what the fuck, dude?
He decides to don a suit, christening himself Shadowhawk, a name that would eventually lure out the psychotic and racist villain known as Hawk's Shadow.
Incredible stuff happening in the 90s. Incredible things.
Okay. Oh my God. He was taught to fight effectively with the help of his police officer friend who was kicked off the force, promising to take back the night. He also kept the pills needed to slow his reaction to his HIV infection in small pouches on his belt so he could take them as needed. So his utility belt has his AIDS cocktail in it. He's popping it. You can't make this up. Like, this was the 90s.
Now, see, that's the kind of magical element I can get behind. One that's dying.
So great. Later in his career, parentheses, and as his lifespan shortened due to the progression of HIV to AIDS, he eventually grew less violent. Also, like, okay, here we go. In his final act as Shadowhawk, Johnstone would rescue his mother from being attacked by Hawk Shadow. The aftermath of the fight would leave Johnstone in a weakened state and unable to elude the pursuit of police. He was remanded into custody and transported to a hospital where AIDS eventually took its toll and ended his life.
The end. Final
Incredible.
issue. Now, see, a better ending would have been that Shadowhawk gave Hawk Shadow AIDS before he died.
Yes.
And that's the big twist, is that Hawk Shadow's like in his office, barely alive, and he's like, at least I finally killed him. And then Doctor just comes up and goes, you have AIDS. No!
Yeah. Sterling comes up and he's like, you have fucking AIDS.
Does he give him AIDS by fucking him?
Yes, exactly.
Yo, look. Honestly, Heike, that whole insane fucking concept would have been redeemed if at the very fucking end they pull a Hateful Eight and you just have like Shadowhawk laughing in the snow, getting domed up by Hawk Shadow, and then he gives him AIDS after he busts in him. Like that would have been redeemed at least.
As far as I know, you can't catch HIV from oral sex. I'm pretty sure it would even have to go all.
Then he rails.
Just claps him.
Just claps him in the snow.
It's literally like the South Park, like Indiana Jones with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. like Spawn, Savage Dragon, and Youngblood all open the door to Shadowhawk's lair, and oh my God!
That shot of Shadowhawk finishing like George Lucas, like.
God damn it! I don't even know how the fuck we got here, boys. I don't even know how we got here.
And it was long and it was warm.
It's like, I mean, because we're talking about '90s comics, so we might as well give like context.
Well.
Like, look, see, there's the reveal. Like me?
Insane. Absolutely fucking insane.
I can't believe it.
My God.
I genuinely cannot.
Everyone, there's an introduction to what 90s comics outside of the big two were like.
Which, you know what? Hey, transition to like a real like topic. Let's just briefly close out the show like talking about that, because as much shit as we're talking on Todd, fantastical elements, McFarlane, I will give him credit, like Andy has said, for carrying Image Comics throughout, I would say, like most of the 2000s, kind of leading up to where they're at right now. And I say this as I know I'm kind of like the residential, don't really read too many comics guy on the show. That being said, unlike I read some of the big two, but most of the majority of my comic book enjoyment has come from Image Comics. I love them as a publication because they just have a lot more, in my opinion at least, more interesting stories, because they lean more towards on just like graphic novels versus just more traditional just superhero films or superhero stories. So for me, I at least, as much shit as I can talk on McFarlane, and he's an absolute goober, but I at least will appreciate him carrying that publication to get it to the point where it's at now, where it is produced and continues to produce some of my favorite works within this medium.
Yes.
Just because, again, you wouldn't have the diversity in comics in general, I think, without a publication like an Image Comics. You know what I mean? I'm going to be forever thankful for that. As much as I may not enjoy McFarlane's work, I at least will respect him for using his IP to be able to carry and keep that publication open enough to be able to make what would go on to become some of my favorite works.
Both some of my favorite modern comics are written and are done by the writer artist duo, Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. They've done Kill or Be Killed, they've done The Fade Out, they've done Reckless, among others. One of my other favorite ongoing series at the moment is Ice Cream Man, which is a fantastic horror comic if anybody's ever read it.
Yes.
Neither of those two would exist because they're both published by Image. Neither of those two creative teams would be allowed to do those if it wasn't for these guys blazing that trail and doing something truly, truly bold and daring by walking out of their like $1 million contracts from Marvel Comics to do this. They truly like laid down on the wire for all creatives in comics to come. So we do have to give them that. Having said that, a lot of the stuff is really bad. Savage Dragon's pretty fun. Savage Dragon is pretty fun because it knows what it is. Also, Todd McFarlane like constantly touts that Spawn is the first superhero film to have an African American superhero. He's technically right, but 2 weeks later, Steel starring Shaq came out. And having seen both recently, Steel is better. I can't believe I'm saying it, but Steel is better.
Which is an incredible bar.
Yeah.
God,
wait. Real quick. When did Spawn come out? What year?
97.
1997.
97?
Yeah.
Oh, well, McFarlane, Todd Fantasco Elements McFarlane, he's actually fucking wrong because the first black superhero on screen was actually 1994's Blink Man. All right.
Can't forget
so
Blink Man.
With Damon Wayans, baby, which we'll get to at some point in this show. But yeah, so McFarlane, I'm sorry, but you got beat to the punch by the fucking Wayans brother, baby.
I don't like these fantastical elements anymore. They're always taking credit from the white man.
Hawk Shadow, is that you?
Oh my god. Let's wrap it up. Is there any hope for a new Spawn movie? No.
No, there's absolutely no.
No.
As long as Todd McFarlane is alive, there's no hope for a Spawn movie. He's constantly putting out these fucking updates, and all it is like every like year or so he'll put out an update, and it's usually like when a popular R-rated comic book movie comes out and does well. And he's like, well, it's gonna be like that. Like, we're doing that. Like, it's gonna be like Joker. Like,
yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and I think now they do have like this one of the co-screenwriters of Joker like rewriting the script. So he's like,
and then Todd's gonna look at that and be like, "I need to fix this up a little bit."
Yeah.
Let's carry it into next year. Push it off a little bit. So there is no hope for another Spawn movie as long as Todd McFarlane is alive. If you want to watch something with Spawn in it, there is the animated series on HBO, which is really good. It's 12 episodes, I believe. It's like one season. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. It's the best thing of Spawn in general. Please go watch that instead.
Yes.
It's great. It's got Keith David as Spawn. Way better.
To further put the boot into Todd McFarlane, in 2009, I saw an interview with him where he had a new animated series lined up called Spawn the Animation. Mm-hmm. And from what I remember, Keith David was coming back in addition to Mark Hamill. And he said, right now, we have the first 3 episodes done. He goes, we just have to use them to sell the full season. He goes, if not, I'll package them and release it as an animated movie. That was in 2009. That was 15 years ago. There's not a single fucking thing that's come out of it yet. There's a fucking Spawn animation with Keith David and Mark Hamill returning, and we can't see it because this dude doesn't want to give a dime to Adult Swim to fucking put this shit out. Like,
God damn it.
That sounds like something that only appeals to fantastical elements. We can't have that. Who's this Keith David fella? Is he also a fantastical element?
Is the guy who originally voiced Cleveland Brown available? We'll make him Spawn.
Oh my god!
You see what happens when you don't make a movie of your character, Todd? People insinuate all these things about you.
Hey, look, I'll just say he's never beaten the allegations because I'll never forget in that fucking Savage Dragon comic when you had not only Godzilla, Osama bin Laden, but you had fucking Spider-Man to distract and save the President Barack Barack Obama, throws a fucking basketball and has him chase after it like a goddamn dog. All right, so McFarlane's never beaten the allegations in my mind. I'm sorry.
Be fair, that is Savage Dragon is Eric Larson, who also like has put a lot of weird politics stuff into his comics.
It's too close to association, I think. Doesn't McFarlane do the art for Savage Dragon?
No. There's been like Eric Larson writes and draws Savage Dragon, but there have been like crossovers.
Gotcha.
But let's just say these are all guys who were trying to be like socially aware in the 90s, and a lot of it has not aged well. But they were all hanging out together. They all knew each other.
It's a different time.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not gonna rescind that correction. I don't care if it's a fake news. As far as my mind goes, McFarlane, you didn't stop your buddy from doing it, and therefore you're just as culpable. Damn it,
Todd McFarlane, as we continue to assassinate his character.
You don't see very well.
It sounds like okay. Look, it sounds like he's being raped by Stan Lee. Like
90-something-year-old Stanley, his testicles are just dragging on the floor at that point.
I mean, that's what it sounds like. If you're listening to this podcast, you've never seen that. You've never seen that video. I'm gonna post that on the No More Talking Productions social media, but I'm gonna cut out the fucking video part of it and just say like, what does it sound like Todd McFarlane is Stan Lee?
That's just Todd McFarlane watching Terry rail Wanda going, "No, stop it! No, not my Malbolgia figurine. It's on the floor." Okay, let's wrap this
and
up.
on that note, ladies and gentlemen, let's get the fuck out of here, boys. I'm over it. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Heroic Efforts, ladies and gents. Be sure to tune in next week where we're going to talk about hopefully something a little bit better than fucking Spawn and Todd McFarlane's bullshit. But yeah, this was our episode. Please go watch Constantine. It's an actually incredible film. Never read or watch anything Spawn. It's not worth a damn. And join us next week for more Heroic Efforts. Oh shit! Wait, hold on. We gotta redo this whole bit. Okay, ready? All right, and on that note, ladies and gentlemen, let's get the fuck out of here, boys, because I'm over it. I'm done talking about this. I never want to think about fucking Spawn again. Anyway, be sure to tune in next week for more Heroic Efforts. But before then, be sure to go ahead and follow us and check us out. You can find Andy at
@the_super guy on Twitter and Instagram.
And you can find Marty at
Only McFisherman on Twitter.
You can find me at Monte Nix and Nick Talamante on Instagram and Twitter. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, please be sure to tune in next week for more Heroic Efforts. We'll catch you back then. All right, peace.
My Malbolgias are so sore.